If you're tired of missed deadlines and blown budgets, you're about to discover the power of project planning. In this video, we're going to actually discuss some of the common problems that you will see when your projects are not properly planned for, and then 3 reasons why you should actually plan your projects. I'm Darius, and I help businesses and organizations improve their operational systems and their project processes. I've also worked on countless complex projects and have experience with creating project plans for each and every one of those complex projects. So with that said, I do have a good understanding of some of the pitfalls that does take place when we do not have a proper project plan for our work initiatives. So if you're seeking to improve your initiatives within your organization or your project processes, please feel free to reach out to me, which you can actually do in the description below. I have a Calendly link where you can actually schedule a 30-minute call with me, and you can drop it on my calendar and we can have a conversation around how your organization can improve your operational system and project process. But before we get started and we dive right in, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video if you like the video, and please share the video with anyone who you think might benefit from this information as well. And if you're looking to just connect with me, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. A link to my LinkedIn is also in the description below. But with that said, let's jump right in. So I know this could be a common thing where we just say, hey, we have a work initiative, let's just jump right into it and knock it out with the team. We can all figure it out. We'll have weekly meetings and we'll just get started and get moving. And as we're going forward, we'll figure it out. And a lot of organizations kind of do that because they feel as though taking time to plan for it is actually going to slow their work down. But the reality is that is further from the truth. And in this video, we're going to actually talk about some of the problems that you're going to see when you decide to just forego doing a project plan, or even just spending time with a team to plan effectively what's going on. And anything that's not documented, honestly, is going to be forgotten by anyone. So this is the reason why it is probably the best thing to do, is to just document that project plan as you move forward. So I understand you might want to just get going and jump into the initiative, but documentation works, and you can share that documentation with anyone on the team, and this way they can get up to speed too. But with that said, let's just start talking about some of the actual problems you're going to see when you do not have a project plan. And one of those problems that you're actually going to see is scope creep. Now, not properly identifying what your scope is and then identifying and putting it and writing it down in a project plan will inevitably lead to scope creep. And you may not even know that it's happening. Why? Because you did not document what the scope of the project was, and that'll be included in the project plan. So is this project going to take 2 to 5 people to implement XYZ? Let's say you're working on implementing a CRM. Who do you need to be involved to implement the CRM? What information do you need? How many contacts are you going to have? Where do you need to pull those contacts from? All of that will be included in the scope, right? And not having that properly defined as to how you're going to get the project work done will eventually lead to scope creep, which then leads to budget overruns. So this is one of the problems you're actually going to see if you do not project plan effectively. Another thing that you're going to see is missed deadlines. And this could be impacted by scope creep, or this could be impacted by just not understanding what's going on in the project. Your team may be a little bit all over the place and no one is actually sure where to go next or what to do next, and it slows down work. And a half a day loss can be a half a day plus another half a day, leading to your project being over 2 weeks overdue. And now your team is tired and frustrated with working on this project and kind of just want it to be over, but because there's no plan, you don't know how to get it to be over. And I think this is something that organizations overlook when they just jump right into initiatives, is that with a deadline and with deadlines, you want to make sure that you can accomplish them effectively. Why? Because you may also have some hard deadlines that are in your schedule that you don't know about. Let's say you need to get something done before task B, right? And you need that task A to be completed prior to. And you are not aware of that as a dependency. That can significantly delay your timeline. This is why project planning really works, and you can spend time with your team and just figure out what the schedule will look like, and figure out what deadlines are there, and figure out who's on vacation, and figure out all of those things that will impact your schedule. Then you're going to have budget overruns. And now budget overruns is going to happen because you're spending time and money on your projects. No matter what happens, if you're spending more time than necessary, you're spending more hours and spending more money on that project. You could have Sally and Tom work on multiple projects more efficiently if there's a proper project plan for each of these. Identifying what their roles are and identifying what they need to do will help them to stay within budget. But also it'll help you, because if you have to allocate for vendors, if you have to allocate budget for resources, you can actively know when you need to do that within your project plan, and then know what those resources are, what the cost is going to be, and you can effectively budget for it. So this way you know how to maneuver forward, especially when you're doing work for clients and you're charging them billable. This is where it's really important, because you can have budget overruns simply by having a lot of confusion and people having to rework stuff because the quality is not well, or having to redo things because it just didn't align with what it is that the client was looking for. So avoid this by simply planning for it at the beginning of the project. Then, my friend, you're going to have resource misallocation. Now that's pretty simple. You're going to have resources in the wrong places, and they're not going to be able to do what it is that you're looking for them to do, because you don't know that they need to do it and they don't know that they need to do it. So the reality is that by identifying who's responsible, and you can actually use a simple RACI chart, and you can find out who's responsible, who's accountable, who needs to be consulted, and who needs to be informed. That's what RACI stands for. And by doing that, you allow your team to know, okay, this is my job, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I'm supposed to knock out, this is their job, this is what they're supposed to do. I can need to review it when it's ready to go, and you have everybody on board with what's going on and who's responsible. But then that allows you to see who you may not need or who you may need on a project, and allows you to effectively say, okay, you know what, Timmy may be a little bit stronger at X, Y, and Z than Tom. So I'm going to have Timmy do this, and I'm going to have Tom focus on this. These are the things that you have to pay attention to, so this way your team is allocated effectively. Another thing that you're going to have is poor communication. Now, I know that doesn't sound it sounds very simple, and it's like, okay, well, we can just send emails or we can set phone calls. But the reality is that as you're planning out your projects, you need to have a better understanding of how you're going to communicate on those projects. Who's going to communicate what, when are you going to communicate, and how are you going to communicate? And that can be identified in your project plan as well, especially when it comes to external stakeholders, internal stakeholders that are not a part of the project, and then any vendors that you may have that need to participate. Ensuring that you understand the right communication channels for each will drastically improve your time and budget on your projects. If you're trying to reach a client and the client normally doesn't have phone calls between Thursday and Friday, they need an email, but you've been calling them and you're not sure why they're not answering, that is a communication problem that could have been addressed during the project plan. If you know somebody's on vacation, that is a communication that could be addressed through proper communication as well. But also, where are project approvals being stored is a perfect example of poor communication. If you are not knowing where that'll be, then folks might have to spend more time looking for that approval or looking for that information. But what I tend to do is that if we're using a project management tool, then approval needs to be documented in that project management tool. And that is how we'll keep track. So now you know, hey, is design approved for the website? Let me go take a look at the work management tool. Now, another thing and another factor that you're going to see is increased risk. Why? Because a lot of the times when you're project planning, the thing that you want to do is also review and go over any new or old risks that may come up in the project. You want to ensure that you're going through lessons learned documents and seeing what projects you've already done and what risks came about or what risk was identified during those projects, which would be your old, and then try to work through any new risks that may show up or that you may identify based on your team's new understanding of the work. But not identifying those risks will leave you very vulnerable to those risks happening without you even knowing. So during the project planning phase, you want to review what the risk looks like for the work. and then come up with a plan to mitigate the risk, avoid the risk, or even accept the risk once you identify what it is and if it does actually show up. And then the last problem that you're going to see is a decrease of quality. And here's why. All of the things mentioned previously is going to impact the quality of work. If it is taking your team too long to knock out something, they may start rushing it and lead to poor quality. If the team is not understanding the right scope, they may not provide exactly what is needed, and therefore that is poor quality. Not providing what is needed or the deliverables or the understanding of what is supposed to be delivered is also another issue of poor quality. But taking it a step further is there's no checks and balances throughout your project lifecycle, meaning that no one is reviewing the quality of work and just making sure that everything is aligning with what it is that's supposed to happen in the project plan. And that can also lead to very poor quality of work and lead to redo, which leads to budget overruns, which leads to schedule pushbacks, which ultimately leads to scope creep. So all of these things do impact your projects, your initiatives, and this is why project planning is important, because you want to avoid all of these problems by simply planning for them effectively. But now that we talked about the problems that would arise, let's now take a look at some of the reasons why project planning will be effective and efficient for you and your team. And I know I mentioned some of them as I was going through some of the problems, but these are the 3 ones that I wanted to highlight with you during this video, so that this way you understand the true importance of creating a project plan for your work initiative. So number 1, which was already hinted at, was clarity in direction and communication. Once you have that project plan created, it does help the team a lot be a little bit more clear as to what's going on, what needs to happen, who needs to do what, and everyone's responsibilities and how the budget is going to be reallocated and who's going to be a part of the project. All of that information will be in the project plan, and that'll drastically help the team with being clear about what's going on in the project. That clarity is key. Why? Because you want your team to ultimately focus on what they're good at, the things that they got hired to do. And you got hired to move the work forward. They got hired to do the work. So if they can focus on building that frame, that foundation for the building, and you can clear out the permits and make sure that everything is moving smoothly for them, then that is something that'll benefit your organization. Why? Because as the team is moving forward throughout the project, you, my friend, are also clearing out those roadblocks that they may have come up because you plan for them effectively. The other thing that you'll see, which is number 2, is effective resource management. Now, resources both means the people that are working on the team or on the project. It also means the supplies in which you need and what you're using for the project. It also means the vendors. Resources is anything that is going to support the project in moving forward. And by allocating that effectively, you inevitably save your project time and money. And that is what we want. We want to ensure that our projects are completed on time and within the allotted budget, because this will allow us to be profitable for each of these projects. And that's the ultimate goal. Businesses are here and are ran to make money. And every one of these initiatives that we do in our businesses require time and require money. So if we can maximize that as much as we possibly can, it'll set our organizations up for success and ensure that we're operating efficiently. And that is the goal, to be able to operate with all your initiatives efficiently as possible. The last one that I wanted to include here was risk mitigation and control. This is the opportunity to document all of those risks that you may have identified from lessons learned or from communications with the team, and you're able to mitigate them and control them effectively because you know they're coming. You know, my friend, that they're going to show up, and you have a plan to knock them out or accept them or mitigate them or control them in any which way, shape, or form. But not planning effectively is going to just leave your team exposed to those risks. And that is what we don't want to do. We want to make sure that we're effectively managing those risks, we're effectively mitigating those risks, and we're doing all that we can. And by documenting them in the project plan, we are. By keeping track of them in a risk registry, we are. By keeping track of them with the team, we are. If any new ones come up, we can add them to the risk registry. That is how we continue to manage those effectively. Just keeping an eye out for any potential risk is key to helping removing those blowbacks for your team and ensuring that the project stays within schedule, within time, and with budget. You know, project plans aren't set in stone. Your project will have some things that change. You might complete one task a little bit quicker than the other, but something else might take the team a little bit longer. The reality is that at the very least, planning for it allows you to make those adjustments. So having a project plan gives you the freedom and the space to say, hey, this is where we're supposed to be. This is where we need to be. How do we get there to align? And what do we do when we are where we are? Or if we're better off, we can document what we did and not make projects even better for the future. But the goal is ultimately to use a project plan as a roadmap. And if you find that you may be a little bit off of it at some times, that is all right. Tweak it so that it continues to work and benefit the team. To recap, we actually discussed some of the problems that we are going to see when you do not have a project plan for your work initiatives or projects. And then we also discussed 3 key reasons as to why you should plan for your projects and initiatives effectively. Moving forward, I hope that you and your organization takes project planning seriously, as it is something that can truly make or break your projects. The reality is that 50% of projects fail due to lack of project management skills. And the reality is that we don't want our projects to fail. We're all doing these initiatives and work initiatives for a reason, and it is because it's going to benefit the organization. And if those projects are failing, then you're doing a disservice to that organization. And the goal is to get them done efficiently, so that this way you can maximize the amount of work that you can actually output for the year, for the quarter, or for the month. But if you and your team are struggling to plan for your projects effectively, then don't worry, I got you covered. What you can do is just schedule a call with me. I'll leave a link to my calendar down in the description. And with that call, we can actually discuss some of your project planning needs. I'm here to help organizations and businesses ensure that they improve how they manage their projects and initiatives, and I'm here to help you. So if you like this video, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you want more tips and tricks on how to improve your project management skills within your organization. And please share this video with anyone who you think might benefit from this. As always, I'm excited to chat with you all. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, my LinkedIn is also in the description, so please feel free. So let's continue to build strong work initiatives and projects so that this way we are tackling the work that we have within our organizations efficiently, effectively, and with the quality that our teams and stakeholders know and learn to trust. I'm Darius, and it was a pleasure chatting with you all, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Have a fantastic day, and get out there and turn your work initiatives to reality.